This time it's about Lindsay Clancy. It's at least for therapists and mothers everywhere, it's a pretty hot case. Lindsay Clancy has pled not guilty, but charged with the 2 counts of murder, 3 counts of strangulation, and 3 counts of assault and battery with a dangerous weapon. She's charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder, killing her own children in 2023. And we're just now getting to this case in court here. Well, the last year anyway. 5-year-old daughter, 3-year-old son, and 7-month-old son, I believe, by strangulation with exercise bands. Now, I'm getting information from different news sites on this. Her attorney, we're going to watch the video here of her attorney grilling 2 different psychiatrists here, but her attorneys don't deny that she caused the deaths of her 3 children. Notice that word's caused the deaths. The case hinges entirely on criminal responsibility, not on who did it. So the defense is arguing that she shouldn't be held criminally responsible under the insanity defense because she wasn't in her right mind at the time of the killings, which could be entirely possible. Clancy's attorneys, have said that she had postpartum psychosis and bipolar disorder, which she was over-medicated for, they claim. And so from the start, Kevin Reddington is the attorney's name, has said that Lindsay was over-medicated and suffered from postpartum depression at the time of the crime. The prosecutors, they argue that Clancy deliberately killed the children because she wanted to take them with her when she unsuccessfully tried to kill herself that night. This is just, either way, it's just really, really sad. They say it was a planned act and not a psychotic break. The assistant DA argued that she planned these murders, gave herself the time and privacy to commit the murders. It's just so sad. So under Massachusetts law, the burden of proof that Lindsay was criminally responsible falls on the prosecution. So the defense need only raise the insanity argument. So they have an easier job there, though none of this is easy. Prosecutors must prove both that she's guilty of underlying acts and that she wasn't suffering from mental disease or defect that prevented her from doing what she did. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to play the video here of the defense questioning 2 different psychiatrists. I don't know if I'll have time for both, but I've got them both queued up here. We're going to give them a try and see how this goes. I just want to comment periodically on this because the attorney, you can tell he doesn't understand the mental health world entirely. And though I'm not a psychiatrist, my doctorate's in counselor education and supervision, I can see some gaps where the psychiatrists' services were not quite up to par. Some of this is systemic. I don't necessarily blame them. Some of this is the system of services that we live in, bound by insurances and legal issues and many other things. So
Every single one of
here,
them
I'm queuing it up.
telemedicine with.
So this is the start of the interview, or not interview, but the questioning from the defense attorney.
Telemedicine with.
Yes.
Until you came in this courtroom Friday, you never saw this woman in person, did you?
Correct.
Were you ever concerned?
Okay, here's one thing right away. After COVID, or during COVID, I should say, the leniency on conducting services virtually, like through Zoom or other, like the business level of Zoom or other HIPAA compliant platforms, was increased. The pay for it increased. The accessibility to it increased because they didn't want us around each other. And now that's all a mess anyway, with all the new information coming out. And that's a whole nother political argument I don't want to get into here. But so it would have been, especially if it was she killed her in 2023. I don't know when, or she committed murder in 2023. I know the debate is how and why and what. I'm not trying to claim that either, but I'm losing my train of thought. This would have been somewhere like 22, 2021. And so right in the middle of all that, when we were allowed to and encouraged to do or conduct services virtually from a distance because they didn't want us spreading
Concerned
COVID.
about her mental health as a person?
Absolutely.
She was crying. She told you symptoms that she couldn't get out of bed. Isn't that right?
At one time, she said it was difficult to get out of bed
Oh, difficult to get
But-
out. Why was it difficult for Lindsay Clancy to get out of bed?
because she was very depressed.
And did you give her a hug? Oh, no, you're on telemedicine, so you couldn't give her a hug, could you? You didn't have any chance to even look at her in
Yeah,
person.
yeah. I shouldn't even laugh at any of this, but you notice she's smiling because we're not supposed to be touching our clients anyway. He said, "Did you give her a hug?" This is where I'm like, this guy doesn't really understand therapy. It's not really appropriate to give your client a hug. I've had a couple of clients hug me before I could say, "Hold on a second," in the past, and it was because they had overcome something or had such a huge breakthrough that they they had to do something. And so before I could even say no, they've done that. But as a matter of practice, it's not considered appropriate to be hugging or touching our clients in any fashion.
Did you?
I could look at her. It was always a video appointment. I couldn't give her a hug, but that's not
she
actually
says
something
it.
that psychiatrists typically do with patients.
I imagine. Now, I'm looking at you, and you've got the witness stand cutting you off in half, right? So I can't see from your waist down, your legs, your feet, your hands, anything. That's the same view that you have on the telemedicine, right?
Yes.
Isn't it fair to say that you've studied and that you've learned that there are objective manifestations that patients may have that would be a tell, like if you're playing poker, you have a tell, that would be an indicia of the fact that they're stressed or emotionally disturbed, right?
Yes.
Like hand wringing, right?
Yes.
Were you able to see the hands wringing when you were on telemedicine?
Knows how I mean, that's what they do at court, but he's so hostile. Again, during COVID, which it seems like this would have been around that timeline. I don't know exactly when this took place. I know the murders were in 2023, so it was right in that time if she was treating her beforehand. I don't know how far beforehand. But again, like we weren't supposed to be in the same room with them for much of that time. And even when I conducted some therapy in person during the COVID years, you were supposed to sit all the way across the room. It was completely removed. It was really a strange way to conduct therapy.
I don't recall seeing her hands.
Do you recall, you know how people sit there and they do this with their leg and the leg bounces because they're going through some type of emotional stress? You couldn't even see her legs, could you?
I couldn't see her legs, but I knew that she was under stress.
So when she came to you, September 15th, I believe, is the first time that you all actually discussed her condition, correct?
Yes.
It almost sounds like there's a white noise or a breathing machine in the background of this. I'm sorry for that background noise. This is the best copy we have.
And the medical records, which the jury will be able to look at, it says visit date September 15th, 2022, and you can look along with me if you wish. Indicates
The look on her face. She's just like, why do I have to be here? I've been on the court, or I should say, I've been on the stand several times. One of my first several years of doing therapy, I was doing in-home work. So I was working with adjudicated youth in family court in the county where I was. And I got called to the stand. Oh man, it felt like once a week minimum in those situations. And sometimes attorneys would go after me. I remember finally saying to somebody, I don't know what you want from me. I can't say anything that isn't true, and you keep asking the same question and the answer isn't going to change. And so as a therapist, you end up in the stand in these situations where they're trying to get you to say things or say things in ways that they want to be true but aren't
why she came
necessarily
to see
true at
you,
all.
right?
Yes.
Right? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Why did she come to see you? According, not guessing and speculating, never mind the TV. You just look at your notes. Tell me what brought Lindsay Clancy to your office.
Postpartum anxiety.
Is that it? Is that what
So the only diagnosis that I know of that's related to postpartum is depression. I'm sure anxiety overlaps with that. I don't spend a lot of time in this category of diagnosis as far as treatment's concerned, but it's interesting the way she framed that.
you noted in the records?
Well, those were her words when asked, what are the problems for which you are seeking help?
I see. Postpartum anxiety. Now, as a psychiatrist, meeting with this young woman after a month or so of working as a psychiatrist for Astor, there are tests that you administer to a woman who's in postpartum.
By the way, he says this, and the way he frames it is not entirely honest. I don't know if he's just not aware of it or not, but it's interesting. I pulled the assessments they're going to talk about. I want to show them to you here in just a minute and kind of talk about how they're applied.
You know what type of anxiety they have, right?
Well, there are some screening tests, but the most important thing is what the patient tells you and what my assessment is in this.
So she says it's the most important thing. It is terribly important. I don't know if I was on the court stand, if I was on the stand in court, I should say, I don't know that I would say it that way. It's terribly important because it's objective. Everything else is subjective. You really need both to make a good decision.
I see. And that would carry through the Tufts evaluations for all 14 of those meetings, is what the patient tells you, right?
Yes, and what I observe in the session.
Through the television.
So his questions are discounting her expertise, her years of training, her experience.
Through the computer.
What, if you can tell me, is the
It's just interesting.
Edinburgh test?
It is a...
Okay, so this is he says Edinburgh. I'd say Edinburgh, but it's probably just where I am in the state. I mean, in the country. This is the Edinburgh. Sorry, that's the second page. And yeah, so here it is. It is a postpartum assessment. It is, I think, 9 questions. Here's the second page. I think I got them labeled backwards. This is the first page. This is the second. So you can see the questions on here. They're just multiple choice, but Likert scale pretty much because you have the 0, 1, 2, and 3. So it's almost multiple choice and Likert at the same time, which is really interesting to a geek like me. But here's more of the questions. You can see them. I have felt scared or panicky for no good reason. I mean, they're just questions around depression and anxiety, specifically tuned to somebody with postpartum depression. So here's a couple more. I have been so unhappy that I have had difficulty sleeping. We know this woman, if you watch later, had difficulty sleeping. I have felt sad or miserable. You get that depression there. It's only 10 questions. I said 9 earlier. It's only 10 questions. I have been so unhappy that I've been crying. The thought of harming myself has occurred to me. That one's all in caps, and then score here. Now, if they would score high on the suicidal assessment, typically you'd give them something like a Columbia suicide screen or one of another myriad of them, or even like a Beck depression inventory, because you're looking for more information, because this is not sufficient. But the way, like fully not sufficient, but the way this lawyer is framing it.
One of them were by telemedicine.
A common one.
So what?
There it is. It jumped back to the beginning on me. But the way the lawyer frames it is, it's like, it's the very best. She says it's a common one, and she tells him here that she uses the PHQ-9 momentarily. She says that, and the PHQ-9 is here. It is also small. It is appropriate for postpartum depression and a number of other ailments. And you can see there's only just a few questions here. These are not, it's not like you're giving somebody the MMPI. It's not like you're giving somebody some kind of in-depth assessment. This is just supposed to give you an idea of what's going on. This isn't full-on testing, and he may not even know the difference between them.
A common one.
It's a what?
There we go.
Commonly used.
Commonly. All right, so when you used it on Lindsay, when was that administered to her?
I did not use it on Lindsay.
Why?
We used the PHQ-9, which
What
is
is PHQ-9?
it's a depression screening form.
Again, completely
That's like
appropriate.
generalized anxiety disorder, general depression. It's got nothing to do with a woman suffering from postpartum depression, does it?
I disagree.
Well, do you agree?
So she says she disagree, but if all you have to do is like do an AI search on the assessment of PHQ-9, it'll tell you it's appropriate, pulling from the different research and literature on it. So it is appropriate for postpartum depression. I ran that yesterday. I was just like, is it? Because I've used the PHQ-9, but not for that purpose. And so I was curious to know how it applied there. And it seems to be appropriate.
Agree that people perhaps that may know a little more than you determined that the Edinburgh scale is the appropriate.
Perhaps might know more than you. He's trying to dismiss her knowledge. This is the hardest thing in those kind of moments when you're on the stand and they start insulting all of your training and acting like you really don't know what you're thinking about, but they want a reaction out of you. They want you to say, yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about, because
scale
helps
to
his
administer
case.
to a pregnant or postpartum woman.
Sustained as the form.
You're familiar with the Edinburgh scale, right?
I've heard of it.
And can you explain to me how it's graded?
No, I cannot.
There are 30 questions in it, are there not?
No, unless I've got the wrong copy of it here. I only see 10. Maybe this is the short form. Does it say short form at the top? It doesn't say. It just says it's the full assessment. I only see 10 questions. So not sure where he's coming from with that. Just always give me
For someone that is depressed and their condition of postpartum would be 15. Anything over that, they're in severe depression.
Okay.
This must
You
be
know
the
the
short
very
form of thing I pulled up.
First Edinburgh test that was
Either way, 30 questions is still not considered particularly intensive. When I do ADHD testing, I use the MMPI, which is like 340, is it? And then the Brown, which is somewhere around 45. If you give somebody the Connors, it has 130 roughly. And so that's for children, and their parents will fill them out too, or a school teacher. But all the same, it's not like it's still an overly thorough
test that was
let's say it that way.
administered to her, put her at a 23.
Objection. Overruled.
Severe depression.
I was not aware of this test. I was not aware that this had been administered to her.
Well, you know that
Right, so we have a lack of communication between services in that case. It's like, what's going on there?
for the Prozac that she had when she was a nurse, what, 23, 24, 23 years old, she hadn't, other than seeing her own doctor for having a baby, she hadn't seen any doctors. You knew that, right?
I didn't know exactly which doctor she sees. I think we ask about your primary care doctor, but she did not report any other medical issues that she was under treatment for.
So is it important for Dr. Jennifer Tufts to know whether or not a patient who is coming to you for help has a prior medical history other than what they might tell you?
Well, when patients are able to advocate for themselves and share their medical history, we rely on what they tell us.
So, is she working in the hospital system where this person was admitted? Because she should have had access to everything, at least within the hospital system, and then been able to get a release of information right away. This is where I'm saying maybe she should have gotten release information for some of this stuff. But maybe this was just considered standard protocol at the place of employment. Everybody's got different protocols, it seems like, because they're trying not to break the law. You know what I'm trying to say? Like it's pretty standard.
Was she able to advocate for herself, in your opinion, when she came to see you, when you evaluated her in September?
Absolutely.
What about October?
Yes.
Okay, so he's talking about the months leading up to the murders now, or the deaths. I don't know what's the appropriate way to say that legally, but because that was in January.
Yes.
about December.
Yes.
And your medical records, you would agree, show that during that period of time that she was deteriorating, was a word that was used on Friday. Isn't that right?
So
No, so. You used the word deteriorating on Friday, did you not?
she was a little bit worse at certain appointments.
I'm sorry.
And
Like the subject's really serious. I shouldn't be laughing at all. I'm just like having traumatic flashbacks to my time on the stand. You counseling students and folks that do therapy, like we really have to get rid of the passive language. We soften our language in the field for people because we want stuff to come across more nicely. But really, if you're the professional, you need to say things firmly. And one to one degree, he's right. He wants a definitive statement from her, and she starts it with so, which is usually a tell somebody's trying to soften what they're saying and be more friendly than they have to be, not be as combative or
word, which is not my word choice, is what is in the note because I had to select that.
Because why? You got some kind of...
okay, if you've never used an EHR, it'll give you a list of things that you have to choose from that have been approved and deemed appropriate by whatever agency or organization you work with. If you are in private practice and you're doing this kind of stuff, you can keep your own notes like in paper form. But where I do private practice, they use a specific EHR, and you're supposed to do that even when you're under contract or considered whatever the new version of under contract is, because there's legal things
program
around
that you
that.
have to check the box and you have to bring down the drop box. You can't take a pen and write something down about a patient.
There are certain
Then it
parts of
wouldn't
the
be in
note
the
where I
notes.
can write whatever I feel is necessary, but that specific aspect of the note is a button where you have to click one of three choices.
So when the jury's going through your medical records, one of the things that they're going to see is that when you meet with a patient, you have a form that you fill out where it says, if you feel like you're going to harm yourself or somebody else, make sure you go to the emergency room, right?
Yes.
If you have any urges to harm yourself or others, go to the nearest emergency room. That's in every single time. that
Yeah,
you
show us
meet
what she's looking
with a
at.
patient,
Oh,
right?
there's okay. So the thing that's interesting about this is there's like if you're going to harm yourself or somebody else, go to the nearest emergency room. Yes, but if somebody wants to die, they're not going to do that. They don't care what you say. they, they're going to kill themselves if they want to. That's the thing is like counselors and therapists and psychiatrists and social workers. A lot of times when we first start in the field, we feel like we've got all this power and control in these situations. And if we tell somebody not to kill themselves, they're going to do it. But the truth of the matter is, if they want to bad enough, there's nothing you can do to stop them. Because the only way to stop them is say, by force, or have the police bring them, force isn't probably the right word, to the hospital, have them admitted. If they're an adult, typically you have to see a judge under emergency and petition the court to have them hospitalized before something happens. Now, she obviously didn't think the situation was imminent, is the word we use, or for sure going to happen at the level that it actually was during that particular situation. Of course, I don't know how close this is to the deaths, right? So we don't, I mean, that's hard. I haven't seen that much of the timeline.
Yes.
The point of the matter I'm trying to make is she couldn't have stopped her unless the police had gotten there in time. It took her to the hospital. The court was petitioned in time. It's a whole big process. It doesn't move that fast always. I mean, even when it does move fast, it's not fast enough to stop somebody from killing themselves. If they're going to do it, they're going to do it.
And it indicates
I should be careful here too, because if they're going to do it and they're going to, like, if they're just going to do it, it doesn't mean you don't try. It doesn't mean you don't do your due diligence. It doesn't mean you don't follow protocols. It doesn't mean, right, you don't follow through on stuff. It doesn't mean you don't sit with a client in the moment, especially if they're in your office, or call the police to do a wellness check right away just to try to keep that person safe. But in the end, it's like, how much power do we really have in that situation?
if there's any, call the Suicide Prevention and Crisis Hotline. If you feel that you're in crisis, you may text home to a particular number anytime. What's a suicide hotline?
It's a phone number that patients in crisis can call and speak to a trained counselor.
Now, a psychiatrist, you'd agree with me, is not a counselor, that's for sure, right?
Well, a psychiatrist has training in therapy as well as in
Did
medicine.
you give Lindsay Clancy any therapy?
There was some therapy.
Listen to the way she describes this therapy, because if you know anything about therapy, you know this isn't like, this is person-centered support stuff. This is not the kind of therapy you do with somebody who's severely depressed.
Incorporated in our sessions,
Like
but
what?
we did.
Like what?
Sorry. Providing emotional support, listening to
Excuse
her.
me. Hold on, no, please.
Finish her answer.
No, she can't.
Hold on, everybody.
I'm sorry, Judge.
She can. You ask the question,
Sustain.
we're gonna let her finish, and then you can follow up with any questions you want.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead, Doc.
Anything else?
Thank you, Judge.
So her sessions
happens
were largely focused on the medication management, but there was an aspect of therapy including those items.
Okay, and the sessions were for what, 17 minutes?
No,
How long were they?
25 to 30 minutes.
So 25,
So generally speaking, psychiatrists do medication management. They don't do real therapy. And by real, I mean like hour-long sessions for an extended period of time. The way she describes therapy, she's still going to describe it more, is almost like in the 15 minutes she had, she just tried to encourage her and she called it therapy. Maybe for billing purposes, I don't know. But it sure doesn't sound
30
like it.
minutes on the television, and were you face the TV screen with her for the full 25 minutes?
Yes.
And that's not noted in your records. It says
You just
17
said 25 minutes. So a full therapeutic hour is 50 minutes, okay? She's not doing therapy. She's doing some patchwork and medication management. This is the thing, like the system stuff. When the attorney actually says psychiatrists don't do therapy like a counselor would, and she says, well, we're trained in therapy. They do have some training in therapy, but if you get trained as a counselor or a therapist, master's level, PhD level, like I am, the vast majority of your work is done for better and more effective therapy. We call a lot of things therapy, and a lot of those things that we call therapy are indeed not actual therapy.
So if you look closely, it says the therapy component was for 17 minutes.
Right.
It doesn't.
That's not therapy. It's not actual therapy. So this is where I start to get frustrated, because I even have to be careful which psychiatrists I send my clients to, because I don't want them to get over medicated. I'm not saying that's what she did. I'm not making any claims there. I don't want to work with psychiatrists who just automatically assign medication. Just give it to them. I want psychiatrists to sit down and try to understand the situation, or who will communicate with me about my clients and help me support them in the best way possible. And it really doesn't sound like that was done here. I mean, this is just a moment in time. I really have no idea for sure. I can only just react to the video that's in front of
The
me.
entire duration is 17 minutes.
So what do you do when you're trying to give therapy as a psychiatrist to a patient that came to see you? What do you do? What do you do for therapy?
It depends on the person.
Well, how about Lindsay Clancy? What did you do for therapy with her?
You know how many times I've gotten that question? What do you do in therapy? And it really does depend on the person. It depends on the issue that's in front of them. It depends on their history. Are we going to do trauma work, right? Are we going to do something like CBT because we have a thought process issue here? There's just a number of ways you can go. Do they have unhealthy emotions? Do we need to do something like internal family systems? There's just so many ways you can go with this, and it really does depend on what's happening in the individual's life and their background.
I listened to her. I listened to her concerns and provided support. I tried to provide her with hope that eventually things would improve.
So if you look at it, that's all basic person-centered stuff. This is when my students come to their first residency at my university. It's day one stuff. It's like, you're a psychiatrist, you got a doctorate. You said you were trained in therapy. What therapy did you do? Well, I was only with him for 17 minutes. Okay, then you can't really do anything helpful or effective outside of maybe brief solution focused, where you're trying to solve problems. Ah, it's not therapy of a quality, of a certain quality.
So you listen to her, you listen to her concerns, and you'd agree with me that her concerns were, for example, that she actually was unable to sleep. It's one of her concerns, right?
She was having a lot of difficulty with sleep.
On the September 15th meeting, you indicate that her mood was okay, but her affect was anxious, and you called it incongruent. What does that mean?
So she said she was feeling okay. She appeared anxious, and she also stated that she was anxious.
So one of the things,
I think she said she appeared okay, but then said she is anxious. So she's saying that the anxiety and the appearance or presentation of the client were incongruent, meaning they didn't line up.
that you talked about Friday is when a patient presents with an incongruent something or other, I don't remember, appearance perhaps, that would mean that they're saying, I'm okay, but they don't look like they're okay, right?
Or the other way around in this case is what she's describing.
It could. I don't think her affect and her mood were really that incongruent at that time. I think that she didn't appear terribly depressed. I didn't say she was terribly depressed in that initial visit, but she said she was anxious and she appeared anxious. That's pretty congruent.
Okay. So did you put in the report that she was congruent or incongruent?
So that is not an option for me to indicate in that section.
Okay, again, so we have another system issue. They give you a set of paperwork, you have to fill it out. You may not even necessarily agree with it as far as how the paperwork lined up, or you don't like it because it doesn't get to serve you or doesn't serve your clients well. And so the next interaction is kind of fascinating because she's bound by the system. She has to check certain boxes legally, and the government requires things of her. The insurance company requires things of her, and it often gets in the way of doing the best work.
But
So-
it was congruent.
You're like a robot. You can't take a pen and write something down. You have to do the Dropbox and the
How about buddy? I shouldn't say buddy. Attorney person. How about this? The system is robotic. The system treats everybody the same way. The system may be the problem in this case. It could be the psychiatrist. I don't know. Doesn't seem like she did anything negligent so far. Of course, again, all I can see is the video in front of me, right?
on the computer.
Well, if it's on the computer, I'm limited by the options that are up
Why?
there
You're a doctor. Why are you limited?
because of the technology.
What technology? The fact that there's a form on a computer? You're trying to treat a human being who comes to you.
Again, it's a really sad situation, but I laugh because it's like, yes, you're bound by these requirements. And it gets in the way of doing really good work.
For help.
And that's what's most important. What's most important was the treatment, not what is checked off on a box.
Makes sense. So you were unable to make a note as to whether or not her affect and her mood appeared to be in conflict and that she would have been incongruent and that she had poor insight. You couldn't write that down. Is that right? Because the box doesn't let you.
Correct.
So usually there's explanation boxes you can fill out. So there's at least that. I don't know why she would have answered. I mean, I'm not in her system. I don't know what exact software they're using, but in everyone I've ever been a part of, which is several, they've all had that option.
So basically, she's telling you that I'm okay. Well, actually, when she came, do you know that she never saw, other than when she was in nursing school, would it surprise you, a psychiatrist, and that was only for like a week when she got the Prozac in nursing school because she was afraid of public speaking? Did you know that?
I was aware that she did not have a significant past psychiatric history. I was aware of that.
Okay, so you were the first psychiatrist that she had the pleasure of meeting. Is that correct?
Yeah. I think it was.
And isn't that important for you as a doctor to take a history?
I did take a history.
So can you tell us? You're testifying here for the government. Tell us whether or not she had any past psychiatric history other than in nursing school for a week with the Prozac.
She did not report any other past psychiatric history other than the Prozac and Wellbutrin.
So when a patient comes to see you and you're treating to help that patient, if they don't report something to you, you don't know about it apparently, right?
I mean, you can look at past records, but if a client doesn't tell you something, you don't know it. I don't. What's he getting at here?
Well, I think it depends. There are certainly things I can assess, but if it's related to their history, I do need them to tell me.
Again, my friend and colleague Dr. Brazier said recently, all clients lie. Right? Either they're aware that they're lying or they're not aware that they're lying. Maybe they're covering something up. Maybe they're not ready for you to know something yet. But all clients lie at one point or another. It may not be deliberate. It may be more of just an oops. So maybe not lie in that sense of the word, but it happens. And if they're not going to tell you the information, how can you know it? Well, you can get it from their medical doctor. Okay. You can look at their history records. Okay. But it's not always in there, right? You don't always have time with the 30, 40 clients in a psychiatrist's case, if they're only seeing people for a half hour or less, 50, 60, 70 clients in a week to go through that much depth in their background. That's a system issue again. Could she have done better? Yes. But the system sets you up like this, especially when you work at hospitals, agencies, community mental
You
health.
can't assess it unless you ask, right?
Unless I ask or they volunteer it or they
Of
fill
course,
it
we
out in
already talked
forms.
about the volunteering. How about you as a doctor, when you're evaluating a patient coming to you for help, do you ask them questions?
Yes,
You didn't ask her a prior history.
I did.
What did she tell you?
She said that her prior history was what we discussed about the Prozac in the nursing school.
It's like, do you ask them questions? I know he's an attorney and they have to go over every detail. Like that's just part of the process, but man, it feels insulting.
So, basically, other than hoping to give her hope, is what you said, for the therapy. How do you give someone hope for therapy? The other doctor.
Try to
She shouldn't have phrased it
encourage
like
them and
What did you encourage her on September 15th?
sorry,
What did you encourage her to give her hope on September 15th?
what did I encourage her?
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly
did I
the words. It was
Even the
it was
phrase-
almost
Write it
4
down in
years
your
ago.
records?
No, we don't write those details of
Well, that's
everything
the
that was
therapy
said.
you're talking.
Okay, you counselors and students and anybody else who wants to hear this. Counselors, the way we write notes a lot of times, I mean, some people go into great detail, but we put in the basics. We put in enough to let a supervisor know what they need to know. And then we leave some of those finer details out that could be embarrassing or overly difficult if it ever went to court. We don't want to give the court or the attorneys something as ammunition against the client when they're being completely vulnerable and completely open and talking about their deepest, darkest things. You don't want to give every single little detail. It's damaging to your client. It's also not really helpful for the process. And so it's almost like he's complaining because he didn't get enough details in the notes. I don't know. Maybe.
About, right? Yes?
Yes.
And you don't write down the therapy you give a patient in the records, right?
Well, I write something about it.
You write it
I
down.
mentioned
No,
that.
excuse me.
Hold on.
So yes or no?
Hold on. You gotta let her finish the question. You listen to the question and answer just what they ask, okay? Go ahead. You could rephrase that question, Counsel.
No, I'll let her answer it.
All right.
I mentioned that I provided supportive therapy.
What is
It's not therapy. That's like a friend at a coffee shop. It's not therapy.
It's listening to the patient's concerns and providing emotional support and validation.
Right, those are therapeutic skills, but so they're also conversational skills.
So emotional support and validation, all sounds good. Here's a young woman.
I mean, it's not like she was doing EMDR over past traumas. It's not like she was giving neurofeedback or talking about the person's parts of themselves and how they interact and the different needs of the different parts of herself, like they do on IFS. Now, I don't necessarily agree with how those therapies are done all the time, but she's calling it therapy. It's not therapy.
Who was what, 20, 29, 30 years old, came to see you?
Yes.
And came to see you for help, right?
Yes.
Told you she couldn't sleep and she was anxious, correct?
Yes.
You know that she was postpartum, correct?
Yes.
You know that as a patient who was postpartum. By the way, what is your opinion of the period of postpartum wherein one can have postpartum depression or, more importantly, postpartum psychosis? What's the time frame?
It's typically 1 year.
So she was well within that time frame, correct?
Yes.
And you tried to provide therapy.
By the way, folks, postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety, as she phrased it, is far more common than we like to admit. There is more research coming out now. There's more professionals that I've seen that are focusing solely on people with postpartum depression. It's a huge need. And so this is a legitimate thing that we're talking
Giving her
about.
hope. And how long do you figure did that take? 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 2 minutes?
I'm not sure. I think it was different in each session.
Okay. So the only thing that you diagnosed Lindsay with on September 15th was GAD, Generalized Anxiety Disorder, correct?
It was generalized anxiety disorder as well as an adjustment disorder with depressed mood.
Sorry, I'm laughing again. It's a horrible situation, but adjustment disorder in the DSM. I don't have my DSM here. It's at the office. The adjustment disorder, they've just changed the rule on this, at least here in Michigan, that you can't give an adjustment disorder for longer than 6 months. Well, I mean, that's in the DSM, but you can't, like, it can't last longer. The diagnosis cannot be billed for more than 6 months. So you have to change the diagnosis at 6 months. I always joke with my students and sometimes even with my clients, adjustment disorder just means the therapist didn't know what else to give them. So this tells me, now I can't say this with any kind of real firmness again, because it's just the video in front of me, right? But it tells me that maybe the evaluation was not thorough enough. Because they mentioned previously that she has a diagnosis of, was either bipolar disorder or borderline personality disorder, which would fit more in this case, based on what I'm hearing. But you don't give somebody like that. I mean, that's like, okay, generalized anxiety, adjustment disorder. I mean, there's a diagnosis for postpartum. It's just give them. At least I thought there was. At least give them that. At least, especially in the medical field, she's overlapping between the two areas.
And you prescribed medications to her, right?
Yes.
And the medication that you provided to her was the sertraline, right?
Yes.
And the sertraline would be Zoloft, right?
Yes.
Now, this is a little chart that shows the prescriptions that Lindsay was on. And you are the yellow colors. They're the tops. Okay. You can see that. Do you agree with me that on September 15th you prescribed sertraline, Zoloft, 30 count on September 15th, 25 milligrams, right?
Yes.
Okay, this is what I'm talking about when I say that I'm cautious with psychiatrists. It's not that I don't think they're any good. It's not that I don't think they're necessary. None of that's the case. I just often think that they overprescribe because the therapeutic training, the understanding of the other treatment options is oftentimes insufficient, at least in my experience. When I was starting ADHD testing, said to somebody else who had also been doing it, what other treatment options are you recommending to your clients outside of medication? So go see a psychiatrist, get medication, or go see your general care doctor, get medication. And I was looked at blankly, right? There are so many other treatments you can give to people beyond medication. There's even things for like kids around ADHD. I can think of 18. Occupational therapy is just one of them, right? There's balance protocols with tons of research behind them because it increases the strength of the cerebellar, which also has to do with emotional regulation, right? On top of balance and some other things as well. My point here is that she says she gave her or conducted therapy for 17 minutes, supportive. Okay, that's nice, but it's not therapy. And then gave her more medication. And that list he just held up looked like it was about 15 medications. There's something to that if they're saying it's over medicated. If that's, I mean, that's
Have you ever read
perhaps I didn't see the chart right, but that's what it looked like 15 or more.
website for sertraline?
The website for sertraline?
Yeah. I mean, sertraline, Zoloft, is a chemical that is marketed as a pharmaceutical, right?
Yes.
Right? It's a pill, right?
Yes.
And as we said, it's an SSRI pill, correct?
Yes.
Which have been
You
known to
know
have
that
problems.
Zoloft is not indicated for generalized anxiety? Why'd you give her Zoloft?
It is a very effective medication for generalized anxiety disorder.
So you're familiar with the drug labeling for Zoloft, is that correct?
Generally.
Generally. Are you aware of what the manufacturer of Zoloft indicates it can be used for, to treat?
So he's just pulling this stuff off a website. Okay. All right.
I'm aware that it's used to treat various forms of anxiety disorders as well as major depression.
So when Lindsay came to see you, you know that she had stopped breastfeeding her son, right?
Probably partly because she was on all that medication. If that really was the list, my goodness.
Not at the time of the first appointment.
When did she stop breastfeeding? In October?
Something around then.
You know that she had little or no psychiatric history other than seeing you, correct?
And the Prozac, yes.
You know that, in fact, that she had stopped drinking whatever it was that she was drinking, because you never asked, right?
I was not concerned about her level of drinking.
Well, it's in your form, right?
That was at the intake, but
Did you know that she wasn't drinking when you were meeting with her, correct?
yeah, that's what she told me.
Okay, and you believe what she told you, right?
Yes.
She's not going to do a blood alcohol test, especially from a distance. Like, what? I don't know what he expects at this point.
So when she sees you, she's not on any psychiatric anti-tropics or whatever they're called medications, correct? She wasn't on any medication,
Correct.
He just said
and
anti-Trump.
she had stopped drinking anything, whatever
Because
it
she's
may have
opposed to
been,
Florida.
right?
I'm not sure when she completely stopped drinking, but yes.
You don't know when she started, when she stopped, what she drank, do you?
Well, I was not concerned that she was an alcoholic.
That's a yes or no. Did you have any idea? Because we spent a long time on Friday
Wasn't
talking
really
about
yes
her
or
guilt
no,
and having that she drank alcohol. You don't know what she drank, when she started, when she stopped, do you?
I know some details about her alcohol use, but it was overall minimal.
What were the details then? Tell me what the details were. There was that one little box that was checked off. What other details were there?
That she drank 1 to 2 times a week, 1 to 2 servings 5 times a week.
No, I don't know the medications that well, just because it's not my area of expertise in part. But some of those medications, at least I know a lot of the medications. I don't know what one she was on. I couldn't really read the chart. you're not supposed to be drinking at all with some of them. There's some pretty severe side effects. So I don't know if that was in play here, but whoops.
And you don't know what it was? You have no idea, right?
I think she had mentioned at some point that it was calming. It was something that was
what? I'm
helpful.
sorry, I thought-
Calming.
Calming. Okay,
Calming.
so it was numbing. It was like trying to numb something, I guess, right?
That's one way of saying it.
I mean, you've treated.
Oh, I wouldn't say yes there. It's the one way of numbing. Sometimes, like, that's one way of saying it. People drink for a myriad of reasons to cover up emotional difficulties, to let loose on the end of the week, there's just a number of ways, and he's steering her hard right there.
Veterans that have post-traumatic stress disorder, right?
Yes.
And would you agree with me that many times when people have an anxiety disorder or PTSD, whatever the case may be, they try to numb their feelings? Is that fair?
Sometimes they do.
And sometimes they use alcohol, right?
Sometimes they do.
But we don't know what alcohol. We don't even know if it was a beer, do we?
I didn't think that was relevant for her.
She's drinking 1 or 2 times a week. That's not really trying to numb your emotions or your feelings. I mean, if she's being honest, right? Is she drinking every day heavily? Then she's trying to numb her feelings.
With all of that, with that information, you then prescribed Zoloft to her, correct?
Yes.
You went over the side effects of Zoloft, sertraline, I imagine, with her, right?
Yes.
Did you tell her that one of the known side effects is suicidal thoughts and actions and ideation?
Well, that's specifically in children, so I don't think I mentioned that because it wasn't relevant.
Not really. Suicidal ideation and homicidal ideation is a black box warning on Zoloft, along with other SSRIs, right?
Under
Yes or
8
no?
for children and adults younger than Lindsay.
Excuse me, doctor, I apologize. Can you just listen to my question and answer it yes or no?
He's asking open-ended questions and saying, answer this yes or no. At least that's what I'm gathering.
Is there a black box warning on Zoloft?
Yes.
Because if you give
And a
context to it, it
black
doesn't fit his
box
narrative.
warning is required or prescribed by what, the FDA?
That's not yes or no.
Probably.
Probably. And it basically
See what I mean?
warns that, especially with young people or young adults, that it may cause suicidal or, God forbid, homicidal ideation. Yes?
Obviously, in this case, it's serious. And every time somebody's on medication that can cause suicidal or homicidal ideation is terribly serious. I do not mean to discount that. But some of the warnings they put on this medication is simply just to not get sued. And so you have to take it in context.
And you're aware
And in this kind of case, though, they're really going to draw off of it because it's or focus in on it, pin down on it. It's exactly
that,
what
in
happened.
fact, the FDA has determined that that goes up possibly to a 23, 24, 25-year-old. You know that, right?
I think 24 is
24.
what they
All
said.
right, I'll give you 24. It's possible, is it not, that the SSRIs that get into a person's brain affect a person that's 3 or 4 years older than the FDA cutoff with suicidal ideation or homicidal ideation? It's possible?
There's a lot of development that happens in the brain between ages like up to 25.
Right. The brain, they usually say around 25, it becomes less malleable, less, I should say, more stable. Emotional patterns change. They call it brain fusing. It's almost a level of maturity that we reach, a developmental point where everything kind of shifts. We're less hormonal, for instance. And so, and I can't speak to that with great depth right now, but it's something that every therapist, every psychiatrist, I would hope, every counselor will study at one time or another. You call it brain fusing right in there. So he's talking about a hard line of development. And again, everybody's different. So it's entirely possible that she wasn't there developmentally. It's possible, but it would be uncommon.
4 and
Of course,
closer
this
to
is
30, the
an
brain
uncommon
is fully
situation.
matured at past age 24, and so it's less vulnerable than in a younger individual.
Exactly, because it fuses.
So with 24, you're suggesting as a cutoff, are you suggesting to the jury that a drug that increases the risk of suicide?
The other part of this is like, what does he expect her to do? Like, is she supposed to do brain scans? Is she supposed to run, like, open her head up and run tests on her brain to see if it's fused yet? What is she supposed to do in that case? That's the hard thing about this, is because psychiatry, psychology, counseling, it's like half hard science because we have the research, and then half of it's softer science because so much of it is can be subjective, and you really need somebody who's wise and experienced, even wise and experienced beyond their years, to really have a good therapist. That's why it's so hard to do this job good.
24
Do this See, even I can't say it right. Do this job well.
patient cannot increase the risk of suicide in a 29 or a 30-year-old patient? Just a little bit?
You're really looking for something.
I don't believe there's evidence that it causes that at all in individuals over 24.
So, as a psychiatrist who had the ability to issue these types of medications to patients and citizens, what research did you do on Zoloft and suicidal ideation, homicidal ideation?
I was taught extensively about SSRIs and suicidal ideation in my training.
Right?
In Vermont, in Boston, yes.
Okay, so in Vermont was when you get your medical degree, right?
Yes,
And in Boston would be when you were a resident, right?
yes,
And then you had board certification on general psychiatry, right?
yes.
You can have a certification on the subspecialty, right?
There are certain subspecialties, yes.
Right, and some of the subspecialties deal with postpartum or women that are pregnant and have babies and have psychiatric symptomology.
Look at
There's
this
no
check.
board certification for perinatal or reproductive psychiatry.
It's
So
so
there are
specialized
plenty of
in that.
classes that are recognized as, for example, at Harvard Medical School, there's an annual class or symposium, if you will, for post.
So here's the other thing that drives me nuts about this. Is at some level, if you're in this field, you are expected to be an expert for every problem that comes through your door. And if you haven't done, and every culture, and every subculture, and if you haven't done the research on those subcultures, those issues and problems, I'm not saying those are the same thing, and the cultures that people come from and their backgrounds. And if you don't have all this extensive research, they come in and they put you on the stand and like, why didn't you know about this? Well, because I can't possibly know everything about every situation. I'm working in a general care facility, perhaps, where we get all sorts of problems, and it is impossible for me to know everything about every situation. That's the part of this that maybe the attorney just doesn't get. So here in just a minute of this video, I'm going to have to switch it to a part 2. It comes in 2 clips.
Adam, have you ever been to that?
No, sir.
What have you done to research or to improve your education? I understand you went to med school and that you were a resident. What
That 14 years of school wasn't enough.
continuing education
And it never is.
symposiums have
Man.
you attended since you got the ability to prescribe these medicines to people?
I have not attended a symposium.
Maybe they call them symposiums in medical. We don't call them that within the therapy world.
Attended anything?
I have not, but I have done a lot of reading on my own, of research and guidelines.
So it's like another.
about
He
area.
he tries to set her up as illegitimate here. What training have you done? Well, there's 14 years of education. Probably several specialized trainings, just not on this one particularly. And then she says, well, I've done a lot of reading. She could have represented herself better there.
Psychiatry.
Right. Okay, we're switching over.
I have not attended a symposium.
Have you attended anything?
I have not, but I have done a lot of reading on my own, of research and guidelines about this area in psychiatry.
Did you tell Lindsay when you were going, because one of the things that you guys are always concerned about is what's called informed consent, right?
Yes.
And what is informed consent? What does that mean?
It
In a
means
medical sense.
Before she says this, we give informed consent at the beginning in the documents that they sign as therapists. It's really only ever done once unless we feel the need to do it again later on. The informed consent's all laid out and given to them either in paper form or now electronic form more often. And so when he says, one of the things you guys care about is informed consent, it's like, okay, but that's all taken care of right at the beginning, typically.
Not just like out in the street or something.
explaining to a patient the risks and benefits of treatment and possible alternatives.
Again, done at the
and
beginning.
Making sure that the patient understands what you're saying.
Now, when you were going over the symptomology or when you were going over the side effects of Zoloft, one of the side effects of Zoloft is, and I quote, severe trouble sleeping, right?
Yes.
Did you tell her that?
Well, insomnia is listed as a side effect.
No. You already said yes, you know it. Just, did you tell her
He doesn't like the answer. He tells her no one to try again.
Zoloft has a side
Come
effect
on.
of giving the patient severe trouble sleeping? That's all.
So I didn't use the word severe because it typically doesn't cause severe trouble sleeping, but I thought you were referring to when she told me that she did have severe trouble sleeping,
Well,
and that
that's
was
what
true.
she told you, right? That she had severe trouble sleeping, right?
She told me, yes.
And you know that one of the side effects of Zoloft is, let's say, trouble sleeping. You know
It's true of a lot of those medications, by the way.
that, right?
At least the ones that I'm aware of.
Yes.
Your answer is yes. The jury has to be able to hear you.
Yes.
And why would you prescribe Zoloft to a young woman who's postpartum, who's coming to you with anxiety, who's telling you she can't sleep, she's got all of these symptoms, and you prescribe a medication?
He thinks
that
he's
would
got her
have
now.
a side effect of trouble sleeping?
So individuals have very varied responses to medications. Some have no side effects, some have one or two. It's impossible to predict, but Zoloft is a top choice, a first-line medication for
Says
her.
who?
It was
Says who?
says it's the general consensus
Well, you know
among
about the lawsuits
psychiatrists.
against
Hold on,
Zoloft, right?
again, we can't have both of you talking at the same time. So let her finish her answer, and then I'll give you plenty of time to follow up any questions regarding her answer. So,
He thinks he's got her.
you finish your answer on that?
There's extensive research supporting the use of sertraline in this instance, and the general consensus among psychiatrists is that it's a first-line safe medication for individuals, including postpartum women.
Right, in most cases, and there are always exceptions. And this is one of those situations where it's just like, it's so tragic. It's so tragic. I wish there was a better
How
way.
about the kids that shoot other kids in high schools and the lawsuits that come out of that against Zoloft? You ever read about them?
What does that have to do with this?
Overruled.
Sorry?
Well, he overruled.
You didn't hear me?
I wasn't sure what the question was.
The question was, in response to your observation about how all the psychiatrists or the psychiatrists think it's a very, very safe, wonderful first-line drug, and you researched it.
Just because it's safe and wonderful doesn't mean it's without its issues. She's just simply saying it's the best they've got.
How about the kids that kill other kids in schools with the lawsuits that arise out of the use of SSRIs? Have you ever researched that?
I don't know much about that.
You know about the SSRIs and messing with someone's brain, that they go out and they shoot people for no reason, right?
I'm not aware that that's...
It's rarely no reason. He said they just shoot people for no reason. There's usually a pretty extensive trauma past and a pretty extensive mental illness. It can't all be placed on the medication. Though, again, those of you who know me know I am not in love with medications except for in more severe situations. Of course, legally, I can't really have much of an opinion on that because I'm not trained in medication.
test.
I just think there are better No, not better necessarily. But I think there are other treatment options that people don't think about when they just hand you medication.
Arise.
So you didn't really talk to her about increased risk of suicide, and 24-year-olds are down because she's 4 or 5 years older than that. You didn't talk to her about the trouble sleeping that can be a side effect, but you describes there's other drugs that you could have given her that would be perfectly safe and calming and allow someone with no psychiatric history to sleep better, right?
Not necessarily.
Okay, so you prescribed her with the Zoloft. It was 25 milligrams, right?
Yes.
And when you
For having
prescribed
to
her
be
with the
understand this long,
Zoloft,
she's actually
25
done pretty
milligrams,
well.
was that increased up to 0.05 milligrams, or did you increase it at some point?
The instructions were to increase it to 50 after 1 week.
After 1 week.
Yes.
And you expected that she would listen to your instructions, right?
Yes.
And she did, right?
She waited about a month, but then yes, she did.
Why did she wait a month?
I think it took her some time to decide whether that was truly what she wanted to do.
Right, she was afraid of the drugs, wasn't she?
She was afraid of side effects.
And she didn't want to take the pills, did she?
She eventually did want to take the pills because she wanted to feel better.
A month later, right?
Yes.
So you prescribe the Zoloft, SSRI, and then you tell her after a week to increase it, and she doesn't take that medication for a month, correct?
Correct.
And then she did take the medication, right?
Yes.
And did you meet with her or talk to her before she actually started to implement that particular regimen?
I had met with her beforehand, but I was not aware of when she made the decision to go ahead and take it.
So you met her on the 15th of September, right?
Yes.
So that's about it for this one. There is another, and I've been debating whether to keep going or to.
I'd just like to start off just by asking, District
What is
Attorney
happening
asked you
here?
about.
There we go. So let's go ahead and do some of this one. Let's have a little fun. I may do this with my colleagues here on our every other week live show, but I want to. This other psychiatrist is really interesting as well. Just give it a listen for a couple
To
minutes
her.
here.
What were the resources?
We had discussed going on Psychology Today, where
I'm sorry?
she was aware of the.
So the resources they gave her was to find a counselor on Psychology Today. Do you notice this term? Like, I don't think this lawyer is entirely in the right, if I just have to give my opinion here. I think the way he's framing things, he's going to do it. He's got to defend his client. I get it. I don't entirely get it because of the situation. I don't know if I could do that or not if I was ever in that situation. But if you go back to the last psychiatrist, she said she did therapy for 17 minutes by encouraging her, not therapy. And then this one says they gave her resources, a list of resources that she wasn't necessarily aware of. But one of them is to go on to Psychology Today, the website, and to find a therapist that fit her. Those are the resources they gave her. Wildly insufficient if I'm just
Psychology
throwing out there,
Today.
throwing opinions out
Website.
there.
Yes, she was given the name of a case manager through her insurance who she could contact for assistance in finding new providers.
So other than telling her about the website for Psychology Today and talking about her insurance company and what they would allow for her to reach out for what?
Yes.
And that you spoke to her about her insurance, right?
Not every patient, the fact that she had a case manager at Blue Cross Blue Shield.
By the way, I didn't set this up well. This is the psychiatrist, as I understand, from the ER. Unless that was the other one. I could be getting him confused. They grill, you could say, about 3 different psychologists in this case. The videos are out on YouTube.
Was an added benefit because they could assist her in finding providers.
Okay.
That's what I meant.
All right. Other than the case manager from Blue Cross Blue Shield and to do research off of the website for Psychology Today, what resources were provided to this woman? Is that correct? In other words, I know she was transported by an...
So I edited out some stuff here, but the idea is they didn't give her any of the resources, at least that I've seen watching all the way through these videos. They didn't give her anything else. They didn't hand her off to a therapist if she was unstable. They didn't do a really good job of giving her resources overall. So you go to the hospital and you get, or you go to a doctor's office that's a part of the hospital system, at least in my area, they hand you a sheet with all these different things you can do. But the doctor doesn't really, that I've ever noticed, have any idea what's on the sheets. Like what the resources are. And they're super basic. It's like a flip, flip, flip. I already do most of these. And there's stupid, like the common sense stuff. And so if I can conclude, I don't want to go any further with this video here. If I can conclude, they were doing their jobs within a system. They should have given her more support. Hypothetically, they should have, no, maybe not hypothetically, but theoretically, they should have seen some of this coming if they were that good and that experienced, had that much training. There is some truth to that. But the other part of this is they're in a system that holds them back and doesn't let them do good treatment. And then the other part of this is this woman, no matter how mentally ill, is not denying that she killed her 3 children. As I read at the beginning from the summary, she was wanting to take her children with her and intended to commit suicide. She was obviously unstable. But at what level does the act outrank that? Like, can it be so heinous, so terrible? I don't have a really good answer to this. Can it be so heinous and so terrible that it really doesn't matter whether you're mentally ill or not? Is there a point in time where that happens? And I think as a society, we don't have a really good answer to that, which is why this is particularly interesting to me. So we have something so evil at its root, but then the individual wasn't supported well. It's not like she was a serial killer looking for people to murder. So anyway. All right, folks. Thank you to those who watched. I do appreciate the support. Channel's slowly growing. We keep trucking along, hoping to influence people positively around healthy ways. Not healthy ways, around healthy mental health from a Christian perspective. Thank you.